Isn't it annoying when you're trying to cook a nice meal and you go to grab a knife out of your knife block? And with these standard design knife blocks, you can't actually see which knife is which, especially if the handles are all the same design. So you might grab 1, 2, 3, might take you a few goes to get it and you finally get it. Well, my wife thinks so too. In today's video, we're going to fix that. You didn't think I did the cooking, did you? I'm going to make the knife block from some beautiful reclaimed Australian hardwood. I'm sure I can find enough wood for a knife block in my big stack here. And the design is going to be an open design, very similar to this one I saw recently from another fellow Aussie maker. I'll link to that video in the description below. But yeah, that's my inspiration for this knife block. So we'll just see what we've got here. These pieces of timber here all look like the perfect size for what I need. I'll take these, clean them up a bit, have a look at what we've got and take it from there. You definitely want to check for any metal objects in old reclaimed timber. You can also just use a very strong magnet. Sometimes I use both. I planed each board on one face so I could see their colour and grain pattern. So after running those first initial boards through the jointer, none of them were the same colour. They were all very different. So I went back and I grabbed a lot more boards, as you can see. I did end up with 4 the same colour, but that wood is very red and my wife doesn't like it. She had a look at them all with me. So what we're going with, and I think it's the best choice anyway, is this is one of them. This section here is going to be the top. I love this. It's got beautiful pinks and browns through it. This piece here, I can get both sides out of just that one board there. These are probably the closest, and I think it's this one here. And this one here will probably be the base, but I'm yet to mill the other side. See what that looks like, but I think it's going to be these 3 here for the knife block. I then ran those 3 boards through the thicknesser to mill both faces and bring them down to final thickness of 25mm. Next I cut them down close to final length before cutting miters on both ends of each board. But before cutting those miters, I had to mill the edges. So I started with one edge on the jointer, and then cut the boards to final width on the table saw. I was thinking the block would look too boxy as it was, so I added a 30-degree chamfer to both edges on each board, and it's one of those small details that makes a huge difference to a project, I think. It gave the knife block a kind of picture frame or display box look, which I really liked. I reckon when it comes to hardwood, a scraper is the best tool to remove saw marks and any burning from the saw blade. I've got the knife block in a dry fit now and everything is fitting together really, really nice. All the miters are nice and tight. The way we're going to join the miters is I'm going to use both hidden dowels and miter splines. Now that might sound like a bit of overkill, but I'll explain the reasoning. The slot for the knives is going to be a full length kerf cut along this top board, about 20mm in from either edge. So there'll be one there and one there. So what that effectively does is splits this piece of timber into 3 smaller pieces. So if the miters were only glued together, that's a very small glue area. So to give that some strength, like I said, I'm going to run hidden dowels, one there, probably one in the middle and one on that side. And then once I run that kerf cut all the way through this board, because it's full depth, it's got to come out the other side, there's going to be a small cut on the side board as well. So I could try and hide that, fill it in with a same piece of timber, or make it a feature and use the same slot to insert some contrasting timber miter splines. So that's what I'm going to do. As usual, I use the Dowel Max for perfectly aligned dowel joints. And gluing up doweled miters is pretty stress-free as the boards can't move or slip out of alignment. To cut the miter spline slots, I used a method I've not used before, and it was much easier than setting up and using a spline jig. There are plenty of videos on YouTube on how to do this if you're interested. The other benefit of this method was that I didn't need to realign my fence to cut the knife slots through the top of the block. I just lowered my blade down to about 2mm above the board. Next, I glued in some contrasting splines that I think is Jarrah. I think my bird's trying to get my attention. And I had to use a stop for the top splines because of those full length slots. When the glue had dried, I flush cut the splines and sanded everything flush and smooth. Jarrah is so hard that even when sped up, it still took a minute to cut through these splines. To make it easier to insert the knives into the knife block, I used a 45-degree chamfer bit to route a chamfer into the top of the slots. I gave the knife block a final sand. And lasered my logo onto the base. I stuck on some rubber feet and then finished the knife block with Danish oil, which was also a first for me, and I was very impressed. On this dense hardwood it feels like glass, silky smooth. My wife loves the knife block, particularly how she can see which knife is which. But she did say that it looked a little scary.